Hey guys, and welcome back to my React course. This is part 2, and in this part, I'll go over all the JavaScript features you need to develop with React. Now, if you haven't already, go check out the first part of this series because we actually installed a couple of things that you're going to need. In this video, we'll cover variables, objects, functions, classes, and arrays. So let's get into it. The first thing we're going to do is create a new project. So anywhere on your device, simply create a new folder, call it whatever you want, and in VS Code, we're going to go to File, Open Folder, and then we're going to choose the folder we just created. Next, we're going to create a file. So there's a few ways to create a file in VS Code. First, you can either right-click, New File, or you can press this icon right here. So do that. I'm just going to call app and then .js. Once that is done, we can get started. Variables are one of the most popular parts of programming, and it's not specific to JavaScript. Many other programming languages also use variables. So in JavaScript, there are different ways to set up a variable. In the older versions, we used to have var, var, to assign a variable. But in the newer versions, we have two ways to assign a variable, let and const. I'm going to show you both ways. Let is used to normally define a variable that you would want to change later on in your code. For example, we could set a variable called name, set that to, let's say, John. Let's console log that right now and open the terminal. Console.log name. And then we're going to go up to terminal, then click new terminal. Before that, we have to save this file. You could either go to File, Save, and the shortcut is Control and S. So press Control and S if you're on Windows, Command S if you're on Mac, and then open the terminal. We can't see anything because we haven't run our code yet. To run this code, you need Node to be installed on your computer. We did that in part 1 of the series, so go check that out if you haven't. So once Node is installed, now I'm using the built-in terminal VS Code. If you want to use the global command prompt or terminal on Mac, you need to use the cd command. So if you go to command prompt, you can go to cd, which is short for change directory. Directory is another word for folder, and then you type the name of that folder. I'm just going to use the built-in VS Code terminal. So you need to type node, the name, and then after that, the name of the file, not the folder. So that is app.js. We see John right here. So if we try to change this name later on, so let's do name equals, instead of John, let's do Bob. And then now we go to node app.js. We see Bob instead of John because we're using let. So let you can change later on in your code, but if we replace this with const, which is short for constant, you can't change this. So first of all, let's just see if it works without changing it. So node app.js, John. Later, over here, let's just do name equals Bob. We're going to get an error. Over here, we see assignment to constant variable. So all of this is basically saying if you want to change the variable, don't use const and use let. Usually you would want to use const, so later on you don't accidentally change the variable. But if you want to change the variable, then just use let. There are different types of variables in JavaScript. So first, the most common one is a string. So you use double quotations, you could use single quotations, but it has to be inside a quotation. Next, we have numbers. Now this doesn't have to be inside any type of quotation. It can just be like constant age and then just 30. Boolean can either be true or false. Undefined is just undefined, like you don't define this variable. So there's two ways to create this variable. You either don't define it, you just say constant first name, you don't give it a value, or you could literally type constant first name or last name equals undefined. And lastly, we have null. So null actually has a value, so it's not undefined, but the value of that variable is null or 0. These two last ones are advanced, so don't worry about them for now, but I just wanted to let you know about them. Every object in JavaScript consists of a key and a value. Here's an example. So constant, let's create a person object. To create an object, you have to start with curly braces. So enter. As I said, it's key and value. The key doesn't have to be inside quotations. So let's just say name, colon, and then the value actually has to be inside quotations, or maybe not if it's a number. Depending on the type, it has to be quotations. So this is a string, so John, and then comma, you move on to the next key value. So let's just do age 30. This is integer, so it's not inside a quotation. And then you just move on like that. If it's the last one, you don't need the comma, of course. There are two ways to access the elements inside of an object. The first one is you can do the dot notation. So person dot, as you can see, name and age. So let's console log that. Console log. For now, let's just do this. Save it, Control S. Open the terminal, node app.js. As you can see, person.name is John. Or we could do the bracket notation. So instead of dot name, you could do bracket and then name. Or like this. So now, if I do node app.js, you can see John again. Functions can be created to do specific tasks. To create a function, you type function and then the name of the function. So welcome. In this function, we want to welcome the user. So simple as that. After that, we type the parenthesis. And then inside the parenthesis, we type the input to this function. Now, not every function has an input, so you can leave this empty. But in this specific function, we want an input that is the name. So we can be specific about the greeting. So we can say welcome and then the name. Let's say John. After that, you do curly braces. And then let's just do console.log. And then we want to say welcome. And then plus name. So the name over here, it takes it over here. So if we type John over here, it says welcome John. So let's use this function. We can use it by calling it simply like this, welcome, parentheses again, and then we type the input. If we don't type the input, so let's open the terminal, go to node app.js. As you can see, it says welcome undefined. We also forgot to add a space over here. So if you just do welcome plus name, it doesn't add a space between it. So after the welcome, let's just add a space. Make sure it's between the quotations though. So now if we save it, there should be a space between it, welcome, and then it's undefined. So the name is undefined. As you can see, it's not null. Over here, we can do name equals null. And then now, node app.js is welcome null. So null is defined, but the value is simply null. But this, we didn't define it anywhere. So we actually have to define over here. Let's give it a string. John, node app.js says welcome John. We use classes to create the basic blueprint or template of an object. So it helps us create multiple objects with the same variables and functions without duplicating our code. Here's how to create a class. So we type class, person, and then right away we type the curly braces. So we don't type equals. That's going to give us an error. So class, person, space, curly braces, enter inside the curly braces. here's where we define the basic template of this class. So first we need to add a constructor to every class. So the constructor takes inputs just like a function. The inputs we want here are name and age, because in the object we gave it two variables, name and age, John and 30. So it takes in name and age, and same as the class, over here you don't type equals right away because constructor is a built-in function. And then over here we do this dot name equals name, and this dot age equals age. So this is talking about this class. So this class's name is equal to the name variable. We're just setting the variables over here so we can use it later. And then this dot age is equal to the age variable. So once we're done with the template, we can reuse this as many times as we want. So constant, we create a new object of this class. Let's do person1. The person1 is what? So it's a new person. We pass the inputs, John, comma 30. And then now if we do console.log person1 dot name terminal node app.js, you can see the name of this person, which is John. As I said, you can create this multiple times. Let's just change the name to person2. Change this to Bob. Let's say Bob is 20. Save this. Node app.js. We're going to see John and Bob. John, Bob, because we're console logging both of them. So each object in a class can have different inputs. An array is a list of items. Now the items inside this array can be numbers, names, emails, ages, whatever you want. So to actually create an array in JavaScript, you type let or const, the name of the array, and then square brackets. There should be a comma between each and every item in an array. So let's just type out some numbers. 1, 8, 2, 9, 7, 6, and 4. We simply just console.log this array. We're going to see a different type. So node app.js, as you can see, it gives you an array form or a list form, whatever you like to call it. So this is not a variable, it's not a function, it's an array. It's a different type. We can do many things with an array. So we can first of all, let's just access the elements. So let's not console.log this anymore. Let's just console.log, let's say numbers and a square bracket. So this accesses the items in an array. If we do 0, it's not going to give us this number 0 in the array. Instead, it's going to give us the item or the index in that, the item in that index we give it. So if we type 0, it's going to give us 1 because that's in the first index. So it starts off 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we actually have 7 items in this array. But when you talk about indexing, we actually have it up to 6. So if we do 3, we should get the 4th element over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we console.log numbers of 3, we should get the number 9. As you can see, 9 right there. We can also add or change elements. So first, let's just add elements. Let's say numbers of, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we do numbers of 7, right? If we cut over here, let's just put it over here. If we console.log this, we should get undefined because it's just not defined right now. Undefined. But if we change this, so instead of console.logging it, I'm going to do numbers of 7 equals, let's add another item to this. So 7 is not over here right now. We'll just add, let's say 3. 3 is not in this right now. And then we type console.log we'll do numbers of 7, right? And then node app.js. You can see 3 because we just added that. We can also change elements. So let's do 5 because 5 is in it right now. The index of 5 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 should give us the number 6. So we're changing 6 to 3. So now if we do node app.js, we get 3 still because we just changed this. Instead of 6 right now, we have 3 over here. So that'll be it for this video. I hope you learned something. If you did, like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.